Before the stadium lights, before international finals, before becoming one of the most explosive forces in women's rugby, there was a young athlete in New Zealand quietly mastering almost everything she touched. Not just rugby. Waka AMA. Judo. Hockey. Different sports. Different demands. Different worlds. And yet somehow, the same pattern kept appearing. Speed. Balance. Composure under pressure. A competitor who didn't just participate, she stood out. Welcome back to SKYLIGHT Waves, the home of powerful sports stories and the journeys that define greatness. If you enjoy deep, cinematic biographies that go beyond highlights and headlines, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Long before global audiences saw her sprinting through defensive lines for the Black Ferns Sevens, the foundation had already been built through years of elite competition across multiple disciplines. What makes her rise remarkable isn't only how quickly she reached the top level of rugby, it's how naturally excellence seemed to follow her wherever she went. Because this story was never about a sudden breakthrough. It was about an athlete shaped by constant challenge, constant adaptation, and an unusually broad sporting background that quietly prepared her for the biggest stages in rugby. Born and raised in New Zealand, she developed a reputation early as one of those rare athletes who could transition between sports without losing intensity or focus. In judo, she became a national champion in 2013, winning both the plus 36 kilograms and open junior girls divisions. A sport demanding discipline, leverage, timing, and mental resilience. Those qualities would later become unmistakable parts of her rugby identity. But the story didn't stop there. In Waka AMA, she reached international success at just a young age, helping secure a world title in Australia in 2016 in the six-person category, while also becoming a New Zealand national sprint champion in the J16 singles division. That combination alone revealed something unusual: endurance, technical precision, and explosive power existing in the same athlete. Then came hockey. Representing New Zealand Māori at both under-21 and senior level added another layer to her sporting journey. Hockey sharpened spatial awareness, decision-making speed, and movement under pressure, attributes that would later translate seamlessly onto a rugby field where milliseconds often decide outcomes. And still, rugby kept pulling her closer. By 2018, she had already been recognized as the MVP of the Hurricanes under-15 girls tournament, an early sign that rugby might eventually become the sport where all those years of cross-disciplinary development would finally collide. What made coaches pay attention wasn't simply athleticism. New Zealand produces elite athletes every year. What separated her was versatility, the ability to read situations quickly, adapt instantly, and remain composed in chaotic moments. Those traits accelerated her rise. In 2021, immediately after high school, she earned a contract with the Black Ferns Sevens setup. For most players, that pathway takes years. For her, the transition happened almost immediately. Evidence of how highly she was already regarded within New Zealand rugby circles. But entering the Black Ferns Sevens environment is one thing. Staying there is another. The international sevens game is relentless. Space disappears instantly. Fatigue exposes weaknesses. Decision-making must happen at full speed. And for young players entering that environment, the adjustment can be brutal. Yet when she made her debut in Dubai in 2022, she didn't look overwhelmed by the occasion. She looked prepared for it. That preparation became even more impressive considering she was simultaneously transitioning into the 15-a-side game. Also in 2022, she made her debut for the Black Ferns 15 during the Pacific 4 Series against Australia, stepping into a completely different version of rugby with different structures, rhythms, and physical demands. Few athletes move comfortably between 7s and 15s. Even fewer do it this early in their careers. But by then, adapting to different sporting environments had already become part of her identity. Back home, her development continued through Waikato Rugby, where she played in the Farah Palmer Cup competition. At the same time, she was also named in the Chiefs squad for Super Rugby Aupiki in 2021, placing her among some of the best players in the country while still at the beginning of her professional journey. And then came the stage where everything started becoming visible to the wider rugby world. The HSBC SVNS series. This was where her athletic profile truly exploded into international attention. Sevens rugby exposes everything. There's nowhere to hide. Every missed tackle, every decision, every sprint happens in open space under constant pressure. But for athletes with elite instincts and acceleration, it can also become the perfect platform. And season after season, her influence kept growing. By the 2025 to 2026 SVNS campaign, she had become a key figure in a Black Ferns Sevens side that continued establishing itself as one of the dominant forces in world rugby. The team secured the SVNS series title and achieved consecutive tournament victories, maintaining the ruthless consistency that has defined New Zealand Sevens rugby for years. But even within a squad filled with world-class talent, there were moments when she stood at the center of everything. One of the clearest arrived in Perth in 2026. Tournament rugby often creates defining weekends, moments where confidence, form, and opportunity collide all at once. And in Perth, she delivered one of those performances that shifts perception permanently. She finished the tournament as the leading try scorer with 8 tries and was named player of the final after helping drive New Zealand to another title. But statistics only tell part of the story. What stood out was the control. The timing of her runs. The calmness in transition. The way she seemed to recognize space before everyone else could see it. Against elite international opposition, she played with the composure of someone completely comfortable at that level. And importantly, none of it looked forced. That has become one of the defining characteristics of her game. There's an efficiency to how she plays, movement without panic, power without wasted energy, confidence without theatrics. The result is a player who can change momentum quickly while still remaining deeply connected to the structure around her. Then came Singapore. The inaugural Singapore SVNS tournament carried significance beyond just another stop on the calendar. New venues create uncertainty. Different conditions, different rhythms, different expectations. But once again, the Black Ferns Sevens adapted faster than everyone else, and she played an important role in helping the team secure the championship. By this stage, her career had started representing something larger than individual success. She had become part of a new generation helping sustain New Zealand's global standard in women's rugby while also reflecting the increasingly multidimensional pathways modern athletes take to elite sport. Because her journey challenges a common assumption in professional development, the idea that athletes must specialize early to succeed. Her story suggests something different. That experiences across multiple sports can sharpen adaptability. That elite habits transfer. That competitive intelligence built in one environment can become invaluable in another. You can still see traces of those earlier disciplines in the way she plays today. The balance from judo. The endurance from waka ama. The field awareness from hockey. All of it fused into a rugby player capable of thriving in both sevens and 15s at international level. And perhaps that's what makes her rise so compelling. Not because it happened overnight, but because every stage of the journey added another layer before the world finally noticed. From national judo titles to world championships in waka ama, from representing New Zealand Māori in hockey to starring for the Black Ferns Sevens. The progression feels less like a sudden transformation and more like the gradual reveal of an athlete whose ceiling kept expanding every time the challenge increased. Now, with international honors continuing to grow and major performances already attached to her name, the conversation around her future keeps getting louder. But the most impressive part of the story may still be how grounded the rise has remained. No manufactured hype. No dramatic reinvention. Just consistent development, elite adaptability, and performances that continue speaking for themselves on the field. And in a sport where longevity often depends on evolution, that ability to adapt may ultimately become her greatest strength of all.